All right, so it's been about 1 month since I've come back home here, back to the States. Um, and before that, I had been traveling for about 5 months straight, and this is the longest amount of time that I've ever spent outside of my home country. So suffice to say, it's been quite the journey. I went to about 11 different countries and territories. I was kind of always on the move. I did have a period of time where I was kind of really exhausted from traveling. I was really burnt out, so I decided to spend about a month in Ho Chi Minh City or Saigon in Vietnam, and that was quite the experience. And I'll probably get more into that later. But several of the main things, I've always wanted to travel, so it's something I've always wanted to do, but I didn't really get around to it because there's a lot of planning, there's a lot of logistics that goes into it. And I know this is something that a lot of other people want to do, but like I said, it's really complicated and it's not, it's something that very few people actually get around to doing. People will say, "Oh, I would love to travel, but I have a job, I have all these financial responsibilities, I have, this, this, and that." And I totally get it because I had the same things. I had the same excuses. Um, but nonetheless, I mean, it's something that I just never stopped thinking about, especially when after I graduated from college and I kind of got my bachelor's and I was applying to jobs and all this shit, and it was just such a pain in the ass. And it just felt like my world was so limited. So I would always think about, how can I break out of this prison that I'm kind of in? And so I would always think about, this trip that I would go on, and then I would have this grand adventure and everything. So, but reality happens, and then you kind of have to contend with that. But it's not something I ever stop thinking about. So eventually, you know, time goes on, and I kind of get sick of life after a little bit. I have a job here and there. I did a lot of things, but it always felt like I was just never really satisfied with life. Things were not super bad, but they also weren't super good. And it's in these types of moments where you could feel kind of trapped. But eventually, I decided, you know what? I'm going to do this. So I'm going to figure out a way. I'm going to save money for this amount of time. I'm going to create a rough itinerary of where I want to go. And I'm just going to do it. And that's what you got to do sometimes. And that's exactly what I did. But the thing is, no plan goes. How does it go? What was it that people say? No plan survives contact with the enemy. So when I was abroad, basically by the third week, I just threw my plan out the window, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do whatever calls to me, and that was the right decision. Um, and the main thing that I would say you get when you spend that amount of time traveling around all these foreign countries that you don't really know the culture of is that you develop a very high level of confidence in yourself. You kind of think to yourself, even though I'm in this country where I don't speak the language, I don't really understand the customs, I don't really understand, what life is like here, I can still get around. I still kind of have this you kind of have this confidence in yourself that you can get around even though you don't know much about your environment. And also, you because you're in this place that's really foreign that you need to get to know, it really expands your worldview to the point where you think the world is a much bigger place than you initially imagined. And so you don't have this limited mindset. You develop more of an abundance mindset so that even when I'm back home right now, I've come back home and I'm kind of back to my old routine. I feel like there's an entire world out there full of opportunity that I can pursue. I don't have to be stuck in doing what I did, doing what my degree says. Most degrees are basically useless anyways, so I didn't even have a job in my degree. But anyway, it kind of gives you the sense that you can really try anything and do pretty much whatever you want. And if you just work hard at it, you can build a pretty good life for yourself. And also, you kind of realize how stupid society's metrics of success are. What do I mean by this? What I mean is, because I wanted to travel, because it's something that I wanted to do. This is something that I genuinely myself wanted to do. It's not one of these crony values that society imposes upon you, like you need to be leveling up in your career. You need to drive a nice car. You gotta own a house. You gotta like have a hot girlfriend or boyfriend, or be living a life that's really lavish. Once you kind of do something that feels true to you, you realize just how stupid all of that is and what a complete waste of time it is. Now, if you do want to go party or clubbing and it's genuinely something that you want to do, I mean, I'm not going to stop you, but I feel like 95% of the people who do these types of things do it for some kind of validation or some kind of FOMO. But the thing is, once you really think hard about what you really want to do, something that's very true to your heart, and you go out and you just do that, you don't really feel FOMO on anything else. Like, I've come back and I don't feel any sense of FOMO at all. Like, I will see people on social media going to festivals, going to raves, uh, doing all this other stuff, and I would be like, okay, cool, for good for them. And I used to be the type of guy that thought that I was missing out on so many fun things by not doing these things. And then, I had a period of my life where I was going to festivals pretty frequently. And eventually it got to the point where I just feel like each one is kind of the same. And why am I really still going to these things? It was a good time to hang out with friends, but there's no reason I needed to be going every couple of months or really every couple of weeks. So, yeah, I mean, I would really encourage you to find what is that thing that you want to do. If it is traveling, then, if you really want to do it, you would say you would find a way to do it. I hear a lot of people who say they want to do the same thing that I did, or when I was abroad, my friends would call me up and they would be like, "Oh man, I wish I could do that, but this and that." And a lot of these I totally understand. The thing is, you just have to want it bad enough. And the reason I was able to save up a lot of money so that I could afford to even do this. And the thing is, I don't even think this is as expensive as many people think it is. I think it's just a plane ticket. If you go to Southeast Asia like I did, things are really cheap. It's really just the plane ticket that's expensive. You could live on, I dare say, less than $10, maybe even $10, $15 a day if you live in some shitty hostel or something. I mean, I stayed in some of these like backpackers shitholes, and I was like, okay, never again. I at least, I had the ability to stay in some not fancy hotels, but at least somewhere where I could feel somewhat comfortable and not, suffer. But it's really up to you. I mean, anyway, there was a period where I had to live on my own terms, where I was in Saigon by myself, and I lived in the back of a pharmacy for about a month. I found it on Airbnb. It was about $380 for a month. So I lived in the back of that pharmacy. It was kind of a piece of shit, but I had the basics. So what I learned from that is that I really don't need to a lot to live off of. I mean, I could just get my 3 meals a day from any restaurant nearby, and it's like $2 for a meal. Um, I found a gym where I could work out pretty much every day for a month for free, and that was it. I mean, life was good. Life was good. I mean, it's pretty carefree, a pretty carefree existence. It's a lot. It's a lot different than you know life here, where you always feel like, oh, I gotta grind. I gotta. Yeah, hustle culture is so toxic. I mean, I can kind of understand why things are different in other parts of the world. But yeah, I mean, now that I'm back, it feels like I have a much better idea about the things that I can cut out of my life. Like I don't need to be spending money going out every weekend. I don't need to be buying all these different clothes. I mean, when you're in the 9 to 5 schedule, you just feel the need to consume because it's just such a shitty existence where you just commute to work and you're there the whole day, and by the time you get out, you don't feel like you have any energy left to do anything you like. So you just get cheap dopamine from scrolling, from shopping, buying shit you don't need, fast food. And that's what I was doing when I was at home and I had a job, and it was just like the same shit all the damn time. And I didn't feel like there was any greater meaning. It didn't feel like I was building towards um, anything meaningful in my life. I was just at a job, and then in the weekends, I would go out with my friends, and we would spend money on drinks and dinners and whatever entertainment. But now it's like I want to some things I want to do are just a lot different than what other people want to do, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. It's a big world out there. There's no reason why you have to live by other people's standards of success. And I think a lot of people they spend years living like this, wondering why nothing changes. And then, the thing is, you just have to stop living by what other people consider as successful or what other people consider fun. If you live by other people's standards, you're always going to feel like shit. So I probably keep repeating that, but I think that's the main thing that I learned. Um, I really should. The only my only regret is that I should have done it a lot earlier because, like I said, it expands the way you view the world, and I think it's really just good for your brain. It creates all these. When you go somewhere, kind of foreign to you, your brain forms like all these different neural pathways, I guess. So it's like you're forced to kind of be uncomfortable. You're forced to kind of figure things out in your own way. So it's like I'm pretty sure your IQ goes up when you do things like this. And like I said, you become a lot more confident in yourself. And now, because I have more of a abundance mindset, I can go out and I can try things that I probably wouldn't have tried before. I can take a lot of risks that I wouldn't have been able to do before because now that I have this experience behind me, it's like, why can't I do something? I survived in foreign countries for 5 months all by myself. Why can't I survive here? I mean, if I were, God forbid, if I were to get kicked out of my house, if I were to be, you know, if I were to move somewhere else, I would find a way. So I think that's it. Yeah. Those are the things that I've learned when having spent 5 months out of the country. And honestly, now that I think about it, you don't need that much to survive. You don't really need to be buying so many things. You can just, it's like, I don't need to be buying the clothes that I used to be buying. I don't need to be buying shoes. And it feels like life is just a lot more free. We don't feel the need to consume. You know what I mean? Like there's that saying where the things you own end up owning you. I think there's a lot more meaning behind that. So, and it's just a lot more fulfilling to spend money on experiences than spending money on possessions. I think there's a research that backs it up that people that spend on experiences are on average more happy than people who spend their money on stuff. So anyway, this I kind of just recorded this very, you know, without a script and just talking whatever comes to my mind. I never really do this. If this ever goes on the internet, I mean, hopefully it's provided some value for people. It's something I'm still getting used to, so it's probably a really shitty quality video, but you know, we learn by doing. So, you know, so yeah, I mean, get out there, see the world. I don't know why a lot of Americans don't travel. I didn't meet a lot of Americans when I was abroad, unless I was in some really touristy part of like Tokyo or something. But yeah, yeah, definitely get out there. I would say if there's something you want to do it. If you've ever wanted to travel and you're having a lot of mental roadblocks, um, maybe I would recommend you leave a comment below or something, and then hopefully I'll answer it the best that I could. So that's it for now. Anyway, I'll see you next time.